Now we're going to talk about MC Lyte, who has decided to come to the defense of Sexyy Red. MC Lyte believes that Sexyy Red gets a little too much criticism, a little too much flack for her suggestive content in her music. She feels like, Sexyy Red just gets a little too much heat for that. Kind of the way that she carries herself, the stuff that she talks about in her music, her behavior overall, some of what a lot of critics in the pop culture space are sort of using Sexyy Red as an example of some of the things that are wrong with society and the music and the perpetuation of certain themes, right? So Sexyy Red has sort of become the personification for a lot of those criticisms. And MC Lyte thinks that it's a bit too heavy handed. She thinks that um, Sexyy Red gets a little too much flack for this kind of stuff. So
Wow.
a lot of content came out of the BET Awards, and this was one of them. This was an interview that took place during the BET Awards, media availability, where MC Lyte sort of lent her voice to this particular topic. So this says MC Lyte thinks Sexyy Red gets too much hate for her lewd music. Sexyy Red superstardom rolls alongside a lot of criticism over her raunchy content and presentation, which has sadly never been an uncommon reaction to femcs. One of the most legendary female rappers of all time, MC Lyte, recently reflected on this history during an interview with the Neighborhood Talk at BET's Media House ahead of their award show this Sunday, which took place a couple days ago, June 30th. However, it's important to note that her comments on the St. Louis MC don't really seek to answer the question of whether or not this should be an approach that women in hip hop continue to engage with. Rather, it calls out double standards and a lack of historical context and knowledge that leads to unjust vilification. So, this goes into her quote, but I'm just going to play what she says so that you can hear it for herself. So this is her being asked about Sexyy Red and her giving her thoughts on why Sexyy Red gets a little too much criticism nowadays.
Saying as though you are a female rapper. A lot of talk about Sexyy Red and her content. She gets a lot of backlash. People feel like it's too vulgar or, oh my God, the kids are listening to this. What are your thoughts when you see things like that?
Nothing that we see is really new. And so, we've all lived through the advent of My Neck, My Back, Trina, Kim, Foxy, so we lived that. So nothing surprises us, I don't think, as an artist, as a creator. Everyone's always pushing the limits and the boundaries, but also, um, she didn't pop out of a planet. She came from a neighborhood where this is how they speak to one another, this is how they communicate. And so this is definitely art imitating life. And I think it's important for people to know that it appears to me that she's being herself. Whenever you're being yourself, like, how can anybody argue with
Lord have mercy. No, she
All
don't.
right. So her overall point there is that it's art imitating life, so
Oh,
she's not making anything up and that she's being herself. And so in this day and age, why would anyone hate on her being herself?
we.
So, this has sparked some debate going back and forth. You got people who agree with MC Lyte and you got people who don't. Do you buy any of what she's selling when it comes to Sexy Red?
Hell no. This is I'm very disappointed. I don't listen to MC Light's interviews in the past or anything. Like, I don't know her as a person, to know what her worldviews are. I'm surprised to hear her say this. Uh, well, not surprised, disappointed to hear her say this. Now, MC Light she has a alternative lifestyle. She lives differently. She always has, as far as I'm concerned. So for her to be saying these things, I'm not too shocked, in the sense that she was always in the industry, so to speak, always around the industry. She's seen a lot, and she thinks that this is okay because it's just an artist doing artist things. So to me, this is her not being in touch with reality anymore, which is sad. If we at this point, man, nobody can debate it at this point, the impact that music has on development of people. She's saying that these people are talking like this from where she's from, but then she listed a whole bunch of rappers in the 90s, in the early 2000s, that was promoting raunchy type of rap. And so when that type of stuff is going on and it's hypersexualized, male rappers do their thing too, but we're sticking with the female stuff at this point. When it's hypersexualized at that point, it does become at that point a part of the culture's heartbeat algorithm. And they go out there and they start mimicking and acting as that. And then there's somebody that's born in the mid 90s or wherever she was born, late 90s, and then she's born into this environment where this is already going down because, well, this is what we do in our community, this is how our women talk. And so then you get a child like Sexyy Red who grows up and talking like that and acting like that. But let's be honest here, she didn't get her deal because of her talent. What the hell can she do? She can't even rap for real. And this is just another industry plant that was sent here to promote corner store, ratchet rap. You know what I'm saying? Like lot lizard behavior. And so this is the type of stuff that the industry wants to promote. So they found themselves somebody that's willing to do and say anything. And she's that person. So for MC Lyte to sit here and say that she shouldn't people should respect her for her art. What art? This is an art. So to me, this is nothing but mind control, and it promotes the wrong type of thinking in our community, and it needs to be reprimanded. And we don't need to keep giving these people passes. So I don't care who you are. I don't care how high up in the pantheon you may be, MC Lyte. But to me, this was a sellout ass statement, if you ask me. This was a go along to get along statement, if you ask me. And there was no integrity behind that. Whenever they asked Mos Def about Drake, he was skating around it, but he said what he had to say and he got his point across. But for her to sit there and cape and act like Sexyy Red is doing some service to the community with her bars because she got art and she's doing something artistic that's reflecting her reality is bogus.
Right. She's being herself. Right.
Yeah. Bogus. Oh yeah, she being herself. They found her in some parking lot. They found her on some corner with Newports. You know what I'm saying? But they was like, hey, this is what we want to promote. So she is being who she is, an absolute ratchet. But they gave her money and a platform. Why would they do such a thing? So sorry, MC Lyte. I can't agree with this. Highly disappointed in you. And whatever tier talk I would have and throw you in there. Yeah, man, you getting lumped in the clown category after that one. Sorry. But what are your thoughts, sir, on MC Lyte saying that, hey, Sexyy Red just being herself and a true artist, giving art to the game? Stop hating on her. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that what she said is factual, but that doesn't make it okay. Like, just because something is true, it doesn't mean that you have to just accept it without doing a deeper dive to, sort of analyze whether it's okay and what you can do to sort of improve it. Right. So like there are a lot of things that are true. That doesn't mean that you just sit back and allow it to persist. So what she's saying is correct. She is indeed probably a product of her environment, and wherever she comes from, they probably do speak that way, and they probably do behave that way towards one another. In a vacuum, what she is saying isn't incorrect. The question, though, because she's a champion of hip hop, MC Lyte is one of these individuals who will always ride for hip hop no matter what, right? You can consider her old school. She goes back to the 80s. If there's a conversation about hip hop juxtaposed to other genres of music, or if there's a conversation in which anyone is talking about the contributions that hip hop has made to society at large for the better, how it's changed the world and made things for the and made things better, she's on the front lines with those conversations. She's one of those champions of hip hop to the death. She'll always ride for it. So, as a medium, as an art form, as a music form, you champion hip hop is more than anybody that I can think, not more than anybody, amongst the most of anybody who I can think of. And so, if you champion the music that much, but you also understand that Sexyy Red is a product of her environment, therefore she shouldn't be getting too much criticism because she's being her authentic self and it's art imitating life, then I think it pays to have a deeper conversation as to why it seems to be apparent that this industry, that this art form, that this genre that you champion so much seems to prioritize propping up artists like her to sort of create this ideal within the tapestry of the music that this is its culture, and therefore this is the culture of the people who make the music. MC Lyte obviously does not speak for everybody who is a part of hip hop, obviously, and she doesn't represent everybody who listens to it, and nor does she represent everyone who makes it. But in my opinion, and I'm only saying this being somebody who has been, I'm almost 40. So at this point, I've been listening to this stuff for a long time. And I've sort of seen the differences in trends over time. Was there always a Foxy Brown, a Lil Kim? Yes. Have there always been Kaya's and who else? Some of these raunchy rappers from back in the day. Have these people always existed? Trina's or whatever. I think she mentioned Trina. Yeah, like have there always been these people? Sure. But in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, there has always been a decent enough counterpoints to sort of offset the kind of content that they were putting out there. So there was a greater abundance, in my opinion, of Lauryn Hills back in the day to offset whatever Lil Kim was doing. There was a greater abundance back in the day of Jean Grey's, in my opinion, to offset whatever Foxy Brown was doing. You got enough of a balance of different perspectives and presentations within the music to be able to gain a reasonable perspective of the overall tapestry of the culture and the music. In my opinion, I think that overall tapestry no longer exists. And I think the majority of what we are being given from a female rap standpoint is Sexyy Red. Is that Sexyy Red's fault? Not necessarily. It is the industry which MC Lyte loves so much. It's the industry as an entity's fault in terms of why is it that this seems to be what we are getting in greater abundance. I mean, I listen to radio a lot. Sirius XM. I'll be listening to a lot of the Shade 45s and Hip Hop Nation, a lot of the music that comes on those stations, and they play the music uncensored, unedited, and all of that good stuff. And I know that each of these artists, if you want to use that term, have their differences. But from a content standpoint, I really can't tell the difference when I'm listening to Sexyy Red or when I'm listening to Lotto or when I'm listening to Cardi B, or even not oftentimes if you want to throw Nicki Minaj in there. Like, I'm really not hearing the difference. I really don't hear the difference between any of them and like Glorilla. I don't hear the difference. Tonally, a lot of their delivery and a lot of the substance of their quality, of their content is the same. And one can argue they all come from their environments and they all are making music in which art imitates life as well. So they fall into the same boat. So I think the question that people need to be asking for anyone who is discomforted by this is, why does it seem as though this is the kind of music that we are getting from these female artists in such tremendous abundance. Why does it seem as though, juxtaposed to previous generations, there seems to be a lack of balance overall, where I don't have enough opportunities to hear female artists giving me something different so that I can say, okay, well, Sexyy Red makes that. Okay, well, this artist makes this. And if I guess you can throw R&B artists in there to sort of create that balance, but I'm talking specifically about rappers. I'm talking specifically about these people who make this hip hop music. I don't see enough of the balance in order to be able to gain a rich enough perspective of the overall tapestry of the culture. And I think for most reasonable people who critique Sexyy Red, you want to argue that it's unfair or unreasonable to go at Sexyy Red and use her as the sole example for what's going on. Fine, whatever. Fill in the blank with any of these other artists. The truth of the matter is, tonally, there seems to be a consistent theme inherent within the content of a lot of the music of these individuals. And so that's the greater question. And for MC Lyte, someone who champions hip hop so much to the degree that she does, I get it because it's given her everything. She's old school. She's in her 50s. I wouldn't expect her to go against any rapper, no matter who it is, or to go against the grain when it comes to hip hop. I've already told you this before. I don't expect any of these people to be critical because they're too afraid to do so. They don't think for themselves most often. There are a lot of group thinkers who believe that the genre can do no wrong no matter what. So I don't expect her to not go to bat for Sexyy Red. I would have been shocked if she had, sort of endorsed the criticism. But I think people in her position owe it to themselves and to the community and the culture at large to be honest about the diversity of thought inherent in the music and why it seems as though Sexyy Red seems to be the prevailing wisdom. Like, yeah, everything you're saying is true, MC Lyte. Everything you're saying is true. But that is not independent of any of the rest of these artists. All of the rest of these female rappers are also a product of their environment. Yet we are seeing the tone of their music be popularized to a degree that we don't see with other forms of content. And I don't think that it is unreasonable for someone to ask the question why.
Yeah, it's disproportionate, and the scale is tipped over, and it's quite obvious to the point to where I'm sure there's young ladies, much like how young men back in the day who felt like they had to talk about crime and selling drugs. Now young ladies going to have to, if they did have some regular bars, they're going to have some scandalous stuff in there. I'm pretty sure some young lady, feeling conflicted, because of all of this, and then probably putting some thought bars in there just so it can hit the masses the right way, unfortunately. And at this point, that's when art starts to be mimicking reality at that point. But so for her to sit here and say this, because I've heard Andre 3000 talk about Future's music. Now Future just talks about shooting people and selling drugs and all type of debauchery. And Andre 3000, they was asking him about that, and he said that he used to have a problem with whatever Future did, but then he realized that Future was capturing a certain kind of pain that's going on in our community or whatever, and he makes like songs and stuff like that for that. And so in a way, he didn't say get off Future's back. He didn't say whatever. He's saying that he understands the pocket in which that Future's working in, and that it's serving a purpose type of thing. And there's a way for her to have answered this instead of saying that get off of Sexyy Red's back. And she could have given an industry-esque kind of answer where, she could have directed the energy towards the industry itself, that they're promoting a lot of this stuff right now. And this is a young lady that's, whoop-de-whoop, and, it's just another way she could have did it instead of saying that, hey, leave her alone. She's just being herself, y'all. And it's like, man, that's so you don't mind our community mimicking this,
right? Point. It's lazy logic. You
don't mind that, then these young ladies just say, I'm just being myself, which is like Sukihana and Sexy Red, you know. And yeah, man, so this music's being played everywhere by everybody, unfortunately. I the community at large, I think they're starting to catch wind of this mess. But at the same time, you'll still see comment sections where there's a Sexy Red thing going on, and all the bops in the world are sitting there saying that, but how can you not love her though? He's like, why would I love this? And what realm are you living in for you to be loving this? What are you seeing, for the community? How do you view the community? How do you view what this stuff is? That's what I'm saying. It's so many people that's caught up, in the sauce, up in the matrix, that when you try to tell them that an agent like Sexy Red is really the reason why our community is going to stay in the matrix for future generations, because she's talking to the children. She ain't just talking to y'all. At this point, if you can't see that, then at that point, I don't want to hear your opinion. So for MC Lyte to sit here and to cape for her like that, I can't get with that. But I would just chalk this up to her being an industry-ite. She still must rub elbows, hang out, and do all this other stuff with these people. She ain't gonna throw nobody under the bus, so she's gonna have to see somebody later.
Right.
And so she gave that kind of political ass answer. And that's how somebody ain't they've sold out. And if you can't speak for yourself, then you still got people running you. And so, yeah, man, I don't care for that. Yeah, I don't want to hear any more opinions. At least socially, I don't.
Yeah, I feel you. And for all we know, she could genuinely think this, but I wouldn't know the difference, because she sounds no different than any other person who, if you remove her from that seat and replace her with that person and ask them that same exact question, we would have gotten the same exact answer, because these people are never critical. They never go to bat for any dissenting opinion, because the idea is we need to support the genre and support the music at all costs. So even if something is worth being critiqued, we're not going to do it, because it serves as a disservice to call some of these artists out, even though ultimately calling some of these individuals out serves the greater good, in my opinion. But yeah, it's another example of being too chicken shit to be critical. They'll never do it. And the idea that it's always been this way, therefore it's okay or excusable.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
It's such lazy logic to me, because just because it's always been here doesn't mean you can't evolve from it and learn a better way, right? Yes, certain things have always been here. So what? That doesn't make it any less palpable from a negativity standpoint. There have always been drug and gun bars in male rap. Always. It's been around since the early 90s, mostly. But when Jeezy came along, the tone of it completely shifted. It completely shifted. And I can't put a definition on it. I couldn't write down how, but you know exactly what I mean. Anybody who remembered what the drug and dope, boy rhymes was like before Jeezy, and the way it sort of transitioned in the wake of Jeezy's surge, knows that there was a drastic shift tonally in terms of that kind of music being made.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of copycats who decided to get into the game and copy Jeezy's formula, to the point where there were so many of these individuals doing it repeatedly that it normalized it to the point where it just became something that was ingrained in the music. Similar to what we're talking about with Sexyy Red, where it's like, now if you're trying to get on and you're a male rapper, you have to make sure you meet your quota of talking about selling drugs and shooting people in the songs. And when it gets to a point where it's that formulaic, it's worth revisiting the conversation as to whether we need a little more balance. I'm not even trying to say that it needs to go away or disappear, because I would admit begrudgingly that Future does have a place within this ecosystem. Just like I would admit Sexyy Red has a place within the ecosystem. But what makes me uncomfortable is the lack of balance. When all that is getting popularized is the Sexyy Reds and the Futures of the world. Where are the antitheses? Where are the antitheses of what they are doing in order to provide enough of a balanced idea of what this kind of music can represent? I feel like that aspect of the conversation is eroding. And I wish people who are in MC Lyte's position would lend their voices to that. But she's kind of grandfathered in, or grandmothered in rather, to the round table of, hip hop canon, and these people can't, speak ill. They can't be critical. They can't be critical. And the only way that you can be critical is if you were somebody who was sort of on the fringes, who wasn't huge in their day. And so you stand to lose nothing by being critical, because there's nothing that they can take away from you for doing so. So that's why somebody like Nikki D can call out Ice Spice for prostitution rap. Because in her day, Nikki D wasn't what MC Lyte was. So there's nothing that can be taken away from her in retrospect. So she doesn't give a damn. She can be critical, because what can you take away from her as punishment? She won't have a penance to pay. MC Lyte is not in that same position. And unfortunately, she won't be critical as a result. But I wish somebody would be critical, because it deserves to be it deserves to be a greater part of the conversation. Why is that being popularized more than anything else? I don't think that that's an unreasonable question to ask.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, and I agree with that, to speak on the Nikki D thing, and Nikki D wasn't to the she's not in there where people start listing names, because at least for me, if I started listing names in the 90s, I'm starting with Queen Latifah and then MC Lyte first. All right. Nikki D honestly wasn't even on my list until we covered her, and I was like, oh yeah, that's who Nikki D is. Like, I forgot about her, or whoop, whoop. And so, but MC Lyte is one of those people that played the industry, like I said earlier, and she kept her foot in the game for whatever that looks like. So she went to enough Diddy parties. She went to enough whatever industry stuff. Like, she's always always been around, but in the background, but around. But the other old head people that were in the industry but not of the industry are gone, and then they'll unmute like a Nikki D and then say something profound. But when you still rubbing elbows with these people and you still doing all of this other stuff, yeah, you're gonna talk that talk, and that's why I don't respect that. And I didn't even think MC Lyte was in that area. I thought she was more or less of a person that saw the world in a more conscientious fashion. But
No,
for
yeah,
her,
she's a dignitary. She's a dignitary.
I
Yeah,
can't. I didn't know that,
yeah.
And so that's why this is catching me off. And it's just like, hey, well, I don't want to hear what you got to say. If this is what you got to say about Sexyy Red, then I don't want to hear what you have to say about anything else. Because at that point, you're just going to be toting the company line yet again. And I don't want to hear that. That's not a old head in the game to give wisdom. That's an old head in the game, just like the gang member, the what did he call that guy? Not the I forgot what they call him. The OG, the one that got they give the young guys the drugs, to give the get them hooked on drugs, then go out there and tell them to go off somebody, putting them in position to go hurt themselves just so they can still be in this position of calling shots and being that person. That's what this is. It's like gang stuff. And so I wouldn't listen to that person. I don't trust that person. So sorry, MC Lyte again. Sheesh. I didn't know you felt this way. But over here, at least in the Dogon hip hop museum, your stuff is getting removed. So your stuff is getting removed from my museum. But hey man, teach their own, I guess. But for anybody out there that does have a mind, it is okay to dislike this stuff. She can be this person all she want, but there's people in that insane asylum being who they want. You ain't going to sit there and listen to them, are you? All
Right.
right. This lady's yet to be diagnosed. That's all we doing. And she running out
Yeah.
here making anthems for people out there to follow her footsteps. So if y'all want to go ahead and do that, be my guest. But I'll align with the people that's okay to feel like this stuff is garbage and destroying our community.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. I agree. I don't think it's unreasonable for anybody to say, can we have a conversation about the lack of balance with the music? Now, if you're obviously, if you're a hardcore fan, you're going to be able to find your community. You're going to be able to find your niche. You can create your own playlist. You can customize everything. You can create an audio bubble for yourself in which you're only listening to what you want to listen to.
Mhm.
But in terms of the overall impact that the music is having on the world and on culture and society, it's all about what's mainstream and what's popularized. And right now, there's a lack of balance. And I don't think it's unreasonable for people to point to artists like Sexyy Red to question the lack of balance. I don't think that that's unreasonable.
Agreed.
Not that it's Sexyy Red's fault, but there needs to be a conversation about the lack of balance. That's it.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Next time, MC Lyte. Next time, do better.
She going on mute next time. I don't want to hear.